Right. Once again, my name is Benedict. I'll be talking to you also about forms in Angular. First of all, Benedict front end developer. Well, I'll try to use the Republic form as well. Like my first step. I have to say that I really do everything myself. And fun fact, I'm also a civil engineer. So we just dive into this quickly. What are forms? Forms are everywhere. And I'm sure everyone of us here knows all the forms. They're just interfaces that we use to collect information from users. Now, as developers, we always, at some point, want to collect information from users. So, one of the best ways to collect information from users is a simple form, um, name, email. If you want to log into a web page, maybe Facebook, Twitter, anywhere, those things you see there are form input. So, forms are everywhere. So, basically, what you can see here is a very good example of a form. This, uh, something like this you've seen it before. So this is just the input, and this is a very simple markup for a form. As you can see, they are just HTML. There's nothing really special there. Simple HTML. So now in Angular, we have two approaches to handling forms. We have the template-driven approach, and we also have the reactive approach. So I'm going to start with the template-driven approach. So basically, as the name sounds, template. Don't get it twisted. Template is just HTML. So what it means is everything is done in the template. Most of everything actually done in the template. The work starts right there in the .html file. I'm sure you heard when my friend was talking. He said app.component.html. So basically, you have three files: app.component.html, app.component.css, or SCSS. It depends on how you want. Or the app.component.ts file. So the TX handles the business logic. But in this case now, all of the forms and the markup, everything is done inside of the .html file. Now, what Angular needs from you when you're working with template-driven approaches, a directive. Okay, so apart from components, we have services. We also have directives. Now, directives are things that help you to modify things in Angular. So you can use directives to change the color of the page. You can use it to change the theme of the page. You can also use it to handle drop downs and things. Now, most times when you are starting a new Angular project, most people will tell you not to mix things like jQuery with Angular. Why is that? Because sometimes you might mess up the structure of the project, and you also have directives in Angular. So Angular directives can help you to handle most of the time. It's just when you add bootstrap to your project, most of the time you just need the responsiveness and that drop down, the hamburgers and all of that. That's what jQuery helps you achieve. But with Angular directive, you can also achieve that. So that's about that. The directive now that you when you are working with template-driven forms in Angular is the ng model directive. So once you place the ng model directive inside of your HTML input tag, just beside the name attribute, right? Beside the name attribute, Angular then recognizes that okay, that particular input represents the name input. Does that make any sense? So we'll see it in the code later. Now, as for the reactive approach, most of the work is done inside of the logic file, which is the .ts file. So what happens is this: you write your normal HTML markup inside of your .html file, but you don't need to add the ng model directive. Remember, I said this directive is very important when you are using the template-driven approach. What you just need here is the form control directive. We'll also see how that is being used. This is just a quick note on everything I said. Template driven, you set up the HTML code, everything is done inside the HTML from the DOM. Here, the form is created programmatically inside of your .ts file. Then you link it up with the HTML file by just adding form control directive on each of the inputs. Then you also add the form group directive on the beginning, on the opening form tag. We'll see that as well. So quickly I'm going to take us into the text editor. So see, I'm going to put it up on the screen. So, now, so I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see this. Right. So can we say this because so basically this file we are looking at is the app.module.ts file. We'll come back to this guy. First off, let's start with the template driven. I wrote some quick steps. No, I'm not going to be like coding. Everything is already here. So I wrote some quick steps just for memory use. Um, you add the form controls, engine model, and name. So that's the first set of things you do. Now you create the template, right? So you can create. I use Bootstrap, so that's why you can see this class of content. Nothing special. Um, This is the form, the opening form tag, the still simple HTML. H2, that's the name of the form, just some bootstrap classes for responsible. Uh, Now let's enter into the form. I'm going to come back to that. So form group. Now this has nothing to do with Angular. All of these classes are saying here. This is for bootstrap, so that it will not be confusing when we get into React. Uh, Now this is what I was talking about, NG model. You see this directory here? It's very important. You can see it in every single input. Huh? You can see it in every single input. Now we have radio buttons here as well. You also see this engine model, name, and gender. Right? Now when we now go to the opening form tab, this here is also very important. In Angular, there's something called local variables. Now when you create or is it local variables or local references? When you create something like this now, and you now put an hash in front of it, you've given this particular element a local reference. Do you understand? So now this local reference, we are assigning it to this ng form directive. So this is the should I say the nail on the head now. We are telling Angular now that this element here is the form. Do you understand? With this statement here. Do you get it? Now this name, obviously, we are giving this form a name, right? And we are calling it sign up form. So you pass in this method. Now this is just your submit method, right? We call this this is a sorry, and they click. I can't remember what it says now. Sorry, help me with this. Yeah, exactly. An event. This is when Femi was talking about events. We know he talked about event binding and property binding, right? So this guy here, you see the way it is written inside of parentheses. If you remember in JavaScript, you write maybe one element dot add event listener. Now you don't do that in Angular. What you do normally, I can just write click, close it with parentheses. I'll assign it to a method. Do you understand? In add event listener, you write dot add event listener inside the parentheses. You look for the event that you want to target. Let's say a click event. Then you put command and you call the name of the method, the function exactly. But in this case, you see that event you're writing inside of that parenthesis. This is the event. ng submit, meaning on submit event. We are assigning it now to this method, which is that function, right? So you can see the relationships there. Now, that's about it. I've talked about this guy. So we have our submit button here. See, I don't need to put a submit method here. I can just put it here in the end tab. What happens if I should put this like a click method now inside of submit button? Our result when we submit the form it will be shown two times. Results will be shown two times. Now let's go to the .ts file. So after all of this is done, after you make sure that every single input has this directive, the ng model directive, Within template driven template.ts file, you don't need to do anything. The only thing you need to do now is to import this guy. You see this import ng form from Angular forms, right? This is one of the sub libraries in Angular. You know, Angular is a framework of a collection of smaller libraries. But one of the libraries is this form library. Understand? So you import ng form from here. Then uh, one of the wonderful things about TypeScript is typing. So what you see here, this colon here, we are assigning type of ng form to our sign up form. Remember, our sign up form is coming from here. This local reference from here. Right? It's coming from here. So, like I said, you don't need to do much here, right? Just import this. Then in this place here, what I also also log in values of the sign up form. So as a virtue of that engine model that you have put in every of the inputs, so Angular will be able to see the things you've written inside of the input. So let me quickly take us to the form. That's from the server. So while I was trying to set up projects, I was also running this command cmd ng set. This is just to set because um, TypeScript has to be compiled. Angular itself is compiled, right? So we have to run this command to be able to open and save our project. Yeah, you said you work with React Native, so yeah, you also have something that keeps recompiling. So what I'll do now is I'll open up. So I'm going to open up. Um, so normally it opens up on local host 4100. So yes, yeah. Essentially that's 27. Oh, I open it. Good. So this is our phone. The bootstrap class of phone control is one makes quick use. Uh, so this here is our simple phone. Can you see clearly? So right now we are going to just do a simple test. You can see this is the template driven form. Let's just write any name. Right? Last name number and just put um, phone number and just try to do the phone number. Right? And the email address. I don't think I did any calculations on the phone. And email, of course. Now, when we hit the submit button, watch what happens. So, can you see that? So, my name is zone this, so you need to switch them. Right. So, remember, remember what I did inside of the console, inside of the .ts file. I did sign up form. I assigned the type of ng form to it, right? ng form, right? Now, inside of the values, so, yeah, inside of this value here, can you see this? Can you see this? Inside of this value here, can you see the values here? Now, I could have just printed out exactly these values from here, but I wanted to show us some things here. Now, one of the ways, I'm sure you've heard of validation of forms before. One of the ways you can work more on this form to avoid some things, you can tap into each of these things here. each of these recurrent directives from here. So you can also check if some parts of these forms have not been filled. You can call this dirty, right? To tell you false, it always returns a Boolean value. Can you see this? Right now you can see that it's true. So the form is dirty. Every part of it has been touched. Understand? Then there's also pristine. In English, what pristine means is clean. So right now, pristine is telling us false because the forms are not clean enough for us to be filled. So you can tap into some of these things for verification. Um, that's about that for the template you can form. That is very easy, very easy. Just set up your form in the template in the HTML file. After doing that, you import this. When you import this, you can just console log for just checking. You might want to put it somewhere, maybe submit it into a table or something. You can do all of that logic inside of this method. Now, there's one thing I forgot to mention. You have to import into this module. I'm sure you heard when Sam was talked about module. Inside of this module, you have to import the forms module. That's what helps you to be able to produce that form in the first place. Yeah. And we still come back to this file. So that's for the template form. Now let's go to the reactive form. Now the reactive form, like I mentioned before, what you just do in the reactive form, you write your normal HTML. Don't include what the form control directive. Now I would like us to start from the .cs file. So as you can see, I wrote the steps here as well. Set up the property to hold the name of the form. It is type set to form group. Right? That's the first thing you do. I'll show us that now in the code. This is it. Sign up form. Type form group. Form group. Does that make sense? Right? So you can see if you forget. The next step, we did IG on init. Now, there's something that was not mentioned before. So we have different life cycles in Angular. In React, we also have life cycles, component, mount, and rest. So, but in Angular, we have ng on init, we have ng on changes, we have so many of them. One of the ones you will always set is initialized on init. Some of these things are just English words. ng on initiation, ng on initialization, stuff like that. So, what do we want to happen when the component is initialized? Is what we write inside of this method. So the next part, I said within the ng and init, set up the form controls as type within the form object. So we first of all import these are directives that we're going to use. Now after importing these two things, and you assign this sign up form to the type of the form group, you also go into this app.module.ts file to import the reactive forms module. Without this import, without this being imported, you're not going to work with the reactive forms. In fact, you'll be getting errors inside of your CLI. What's the CLI? That's command dot everything. Just the error and you're good. But don't be scared, just read it, like I said, read the errors and you know what to fix. Now let's go back to this guy. So after you've done that, you create the form controls. How do you do that? Like I said earlier, so after importing the form group, our form group is a method. It receives an object, or rather, one of the parameters it receives is an object. Right? Now, inside of the object, you add the form controls, which includes the names of your inputs. Does that make sense? So what we'll see eventually is that this name you have here has to match the inputs you have in your HTML file. So how do you go on from here? You just assign. Now we call this guy the sign up form. We call it by saying first of all say this dot sign up form. Huh? equal to new. We are initializing form group object, right? We are making an instance of this form group. New form group, open the parentheses. Now you collect some arguments. One of the arguments, like I said before, are the form controls. So you now assign the username. First of all of these inputs, all of these things are what you have inside of your HTML. They're just inputs that have inside of your HTML. Assign this input to the type of new. Again, we are initializing another instance of form control object. Assign it to new form control. Then this here, what is here, you can actually put a value in it, right? You can set a value to it, but because we don't want to put anything, we can either write none or you just put this empty string, right? And do that. Now, there's something about this form control. It also collects validators. Do you understand? So basically, after writing this now, I can put a comma and put any of the validators I want. To call the validator, you just validator dot. Let's say it's an email now. You just write dot email, right? So that's deeper into validation when you're studying form validation. So, like I said, it's either you write null or just an empty string declaration. So after assigning each of your inputs to the type of new form control, you close the parentheses, then you go to your HTML. You can leave this method for now since you've not finished your HTML. You go to your HTML. So what I'm going to do is this now. I'm going to split this, right? So let's go to our HTML. I believe we can see this. Okay, I want to quickly close this again. Right. Okay. So now this is what I want to show us. So what we have here, first of all, normal bootstrap classes, container role, and all of that. Now where I want to go to is this. This is where you start from. The opening form tag. You call the form group directive, which has to do with this directive. This is the relationship. Now you call this directive here. You assign it to the name of the form. Now, in this case, you don't see any local reference. That's that hash sign of form. You don't see that. You don't also see the ng form, but you actually don't need it. So you call this guy. Once you call this guy, the form instance has been created. Right? Then you also call our parent event equal to the assignment to the method. Right? So whenever you submit, whenever you click that submit button, you should run this method, which will be defined here eventually. Now, inside of our inputs that have been made before, the one thing we want to write inside there is this directive called the form control name. So notice something. Notice that these names, these things you are saying here, match what we have here. They do not match, there will be errors. First one, first name, right? Don't worry, they don't have to be arranged in the same order. Next one, last name. The next one is the username, which is what we have here. You can see that. The next one is the email. The next one, gender. Right? Now, I'm sure you probably have a question about this. For loop, the simple for loop. But this is ng4. Angular's for loop, but it runs in the template. Right? So they're just running through, they're looping through this array of genders in this place here. That's why I said let gender and genders. Right? So that's about that. Then we put our submit button here, assign the type of submit. And after that, we close our form and every other div that is not closed. One beautiful thing about Angular as well, if you don't close a div, to tell you in the console that you close it. Yeah. Tell you most likely it will even point an error um, string rather to where the error is probably coming from. So it's intelligent like that. So I don't know. So going back here now, going back to close that. Now let's go back to this. That okay, this is what I changed. That's why I'm making a mistake. Now open now create our method, the unsubmit method. Yeah. Then all I'm doing here, I'm console logging. I can just easily do this instead of us saying so many logos. Can do that. So what we'll be saying in the console is just the values that we enter into. So let's save this. Right? Now I want to quickly show us something before it finishes. I hope it has not finished. I just finished. Alright. So it just finished now. I'll still show us again. So I do this, I just do that. So I'll need to save that again. Uh, so I'll quickly try to capture it first. Right? Can you see? Recompile again. See that. Now for some bigger projects and some really slow laptops, this might take a while when you just make a change. So we've done all of that. The next thing now is to see our phone. Now this is our reality phone. So this is our phone, reality phone. You can see it's not any different from what we have here. Basically the same thing. It's just the way the phone was built. That's the difference. Huh? Now let's enter some values. Okay. That's the then, all right. So there, phone number. We have that. So let's just enter a random. Now we have that, right? And mail obviously. So can we see that? Huh? I only consolidate the values. I didn't want to start showing us all the experiment guys. So as we can see, we have our email, we have first name, gender, last name, all of that values. Quite easy. There are so many other things you can do with. Personally, this is my favorite because I get to have more control over each of the inputs, right? But if you are trying to go for a very fast form, just do something inside. You can use this guy is a guy, but do not forget to put engine model in each of the inputs. Huh? So, yeah, questions? Yes. Yeah, that's the part of validation that I was talking about. So I think I have like a few seconds to let me just try that for you. Validators, 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 validators. Right. Oh, I also have to report, right? I see that. So I have to report this guy. I have to report this guy. Oh yeah, has been reported for me. Right? So if I go there now and I go and I put the wrong, so it's going to reload down, right? So after every compilation, it reloads the page. I go there and I put something that is not an email. I didn't put any console or anything that is going to make it scream or something. Let's just go on. Those blank numbers. This is of type number already. So I come here. Obviously, because I didn't set anything, normally I should. Oh, it didn't work. I'm supposed to trigger it somewhat. Okay, sorry. I can do that easily from here. What is it? Form get valid. I'll just say if I'm going to say something like now if condition, right? So I'm just gonna call the sign up form. I say if it's not valid, the sign up form is not valid. I'm calling our sign up form. I say but I call it and I say not. You don't understand it. We should do something. So basically I should have customized it to maybe like show a border range, right? Because that place is not valid. So, but what you call it is first of all you have to assign that validator's object that will be inside of the input from a form control. Then you also set the trigger so that that ng if what I did there inside of your submit button so that if it's not valid, let's try and see whether what I did. The username. There's no validation, so it's not going to share any event. Like I said, I just wrote a simple form. I didn't do validation. I didn't do any validation. Okay. From here we can see. So it's, normally, this guy should tell us true because the form is invalid, right? And the guy, oh, sorry, this is that's the template form I was filling. No wonder. Just some random numbers. That's not it. That button was disappear. Okay. Are you saying what's happening? So the button is disappearing. What I did was the opposite of what I was supposed to do. Can you see that? So it's just disappearing. So you don't see any submit button. That's just it. Any questions? You can say expand on this. You can say expand. There are a lot of other things you can do. But for the template, use Bootstrap. Sir? I use Bootstrap. You can use other. You can use material Android or you normal HTML. You can as well. You can as well. I just wanted it to look close. Any other questions? Which one? Which one of them? The reality. This guy. Alright. Preset value. If you check, if you look at, if you look at this, you can see it's pre-selected to the main. Is the normal thing. I can go inside that .cs file now. This is template. I can go inside there now, right? I can go inside here. I can put things inside here. And there are also other methods that you can use to do this. Like, not actually forcing, you are setting it on the social media and the dates are set. Dates is set inside here. So that's set right. Any more questions? Yeah, something.
So what about that phone that is still there?
Yeah.
How to say the mobile version?
The mobile version, you're talking about responsiveness,
Yeah,
right?
how to
Remember, Bluetooth is a bootstrap. It's bootstrap. So alright. So if there are no other questions, I think I'll round it there. Thank you very much.